I never imagined that a simple favor from my drama teacher could completely turn my life upside down. My name is Luke, a 17-year-old student just trying to navigate the chaos of high school, homework, and the occasional awkward crush. Drama had always been my favorite class, though I mostly loved it for the creativity and escape it offered. I never thought it would pull me into a situation that would test every ounce of my courage and my sense of identity. It all started with Ms. Carmichael, our drama teacher. She was the type of teacher who commanded respect with a kind smile and a sharp wit. Her plays were ambitious, theatrical productions that often required creative casting solutions. When she announced auditions for the spring play, she sighed dramatically, clearly frustrated. "We have the perfect script," she explained, "but there's one problem. The lead female role is suddenly unavailable. I need someone who can step in, even just for rehearsals." Her eyes scanned the class. Then, with a spark of mischief, she added, "Luke, you have the build, the voice, and the expressive talent. I think you could pull this off." I froze.
Me?
A female role? My mind immediately jumped to the possibility of embarrassment. The thought of crossdressing in front of my classmates made my heart race. But at the same time, there was an undeniable thrill. A chance to act, to explore a new side of myself, to feel something entirely different from my usual shy persona. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. At home, I wrestled with the idea. Emma, my girlfriend, had always been supportive of my quirks, but this was different. Crossdressing wasn't something I had explored seriously, just little playful experiments in private. What if she laughed? What if my friends found out? Yet the curiosity gnawed at me, and a part of me craved the attention and the transformation. The following day, I found myself alone in Ms. Carmichael's classroom after school, surrounded by racks of costumes, wigs, and makeup kits. My stomach churned as I approached the clothing section. A soft, blush-colored dress caught my eye, delicate and elegant. I reached out hesitantly, feeling the fabric slip through my fingers. The texture was different from anything I had worn before, softer, lighter, almost like it was alive. Emma had texted me earlier, her encouragement playful. "Go on, show them who you really are," smirking face. "But don't let it go too far." The wink emoji made my pulse quicken. I knew she would be thrilled at the idea of me performing in a female role, but the unpredictability of what others would think terrified me. I set about preparing myself carefully, my hands shaking as I touched the makeup and wig. The feeling of applying foundation and concealer was strangely empowering, transforming my features into something more delicate. Each stroke of the brush, each flick of eyeliner, shifted my reflection into a version of myself I had only imagined in dreams. The wig, when I finally placed it over my head, framed my face perfectly, softening the angles, making me almost unrecognizable. Once dressed, I stood before the mirror, holding the hem of the dress and adjusting it nervously. The sight was surreal. I saw myself as someone both familiar and entirely new. The thrill of the transformation was intoxicating, but underneath it all, a layer of anxiety gnawed at me. What if someone walked in? What if I couldn't act naturally? What if my secret became public? Ms. Carmichael's voice broke my thoughts. "Luke, ready for your first run-through?" My legs trembled as I stepped toward the stage. The floorboards creaked beneath me, each sound amplified in my ears. My classmates sat in the dimly lit seats, faces expectant. Some were curious, others skeptical, and a few smirked, clearly anticipating a disaster. My heart pounded, but as the first lines came, something shifted. The words flowed, and with them, the confidence. The dress swayed with each movement, the wig framing my expressions perfectly. I could feel the transformation not just in my body, but in my spirit, an exhilarating blend of vulnerability and empowerment. Emma's earlier texts echoed in my mind, reminding me that this was an adventure, a playful exploration of identity that I could embrace, at least for now. As the rehearsal progressed, I noticed subtle changes in the way my classmates reacted. The smirk softened, replaced by attentive eyes, curious glances, and even admiration. My performance wasn't just tolerated, it was celebrated. Each line, each gesture, reinforced the sensation that I had crossed a threshold, stepping into a role that challenged society's expectations and my own fears. By the end of the session, my legs ached, my heart raced, and a faint blush colored my cheeks, both from the performance and from the thrill of being seen in this new light. Ms. Carmichael beamed at me. "Bravo, Luke. You're a natural. Truly." Her words were like fire, igniting a mix of pride and anxiety within me. I had crossed a line I never thought I would, and yet I was eager for more. As I walked home, balancing the skirts and adjusting the wig, the reality of what I had done began to sink in. This wasn't just a one-time experiment. The sensation of being admired, of stepping into a role that challenged my usual identity, had unlocked something in me. I felt alive in ways I couldn't explain, and a seed of curiosity had been planted, one that would grow with every practice, every rehearsal, and every encounter. But the thrill carried a shadow. What if someone else discovered the truth? What if Emma's playful encouragement turned into concern or confusion? The risk of exposure lingered in every step, a suspenseful undercurrent to the exhilaration of transformation. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning, the first act of a story that would test my courage, my identity, and the limits of my secret desires. The journey had begun, and with it, a blend of suspense, excitement, and the intoxicating taste of a new identity that was entirely mine, yet entirely public in a way I could never have predicted. After that first rehearsal, I couldn't stop thinking about the transformation. Every detail of the dress, the wig, the makeup, replayed in my mind. Walking home, the wind brushing against the soft fabric, I felt a mixture of euphoria and dread. This thrill, this secret identity, was intoxicating, but it came with a weight I hadn't anticipated. At home, I retreated to my room, pulling off the wig and dress, and carefully folding them back into the costume bag. My reflection in the mirror now showed my usual self. Luke, teenage boy, quiet, unremarkable. Yet, a part of me lingered in the version I had just been, the confident, delicate, almost ethereal figure that had stepped onto the stage. It wasn't just a costume. It felt like a glimpse into another life. Emma's text buzzed on my phone. "So, did my star shine today? Can't wait to see the photos." I smiled nervously, unsure if I was ready to share everything with her, but the excitement bubbled. Part of me wanted to run back to the classroom, slip into the dress, and feel that rush again. Yet I also feared what would happen if anyone else caught me in that vulnerable state. The days that followed were a blur of secret rehearsals, whispered instructions from Miss Carmichael, and careful maneuvers to avoid being seen in costume outside the designated spaces. Each rehearsal became more than just acting. It became a test of my ability to inhabit this new identity without exposing myself. Inside, I struggled. Part of me reveled in the experience, the way the dress hugged my form, the elegance of high heels accentuating every movement. Another part of me panicked at the thought of being discovered. What if my classmates started suspecting that I wasn't just acting? What if Emma, playful as she was, found the situation overwhelming? The thrill was intertwined with fear, and every step I took in those rehearsals felt like walking a tightrope. Choosing an outfit became a ritual. I spent hours in front of the mirror, adjusting the hem, testing the makeup, ensuring every detail was perfect. The more I prepared, the more I realized how transformative these moments were, not just physically, but emotionally. Wearing the costume, I felt more alive, more attuned to expressions I rarely allowed myself. I moved differently, spoke differently, even thought differently. It was like stepping into a parallel life that both excited and terrified me. The suspense escalated when Ms. Carmichael announced a dress rehearsal with the entire cast. Parents and school officials would be watching. The pressure was immense. I had to perform flawlessly, embodying a female role while concealing the fact that I wasn't just playing a character. I was crossing into a side of myself I hadn't fully explored before. Backstage, surrounded by classmates adjusting their own costumes, I felt a mix of camaraderie and isolation. No one knew the truth about me, yet everyone would see me perform as someone else. The line between acting and reality blurred. I touched the wig lightly, feeling the smooth strands under my fingers, and took a deep breath. Every heartbeat echoed in my ears like a drum. When the curtain rose, I stepped forward, the soft lights illuminating the dress and my carefully crafted makeup. The audience's murmurs faded into the background as I focused on the character. The words came naturally, the gestures flowing, the balance between my usual self and this new persona merging seamlessly. I could feel the energy of the room, the attention, the unspoken admiration. But suspense shadowed every movement. A janitor entering the wrong hallway, a classmate leaning too close, the possibility of Emma walking in unexpectedly. These thoughts clawed at me, adding tension to each line, each gesture. The thrill of being admired was matched by the fear of exposure, and that tension made the performance sharper, more alive than I could have imagined. After the rehearsal, I retreated to the costume room, heart racing. Ms. Carmichael approached, eyes sparkling. "Luke, that was incredible. Truly, you're natural in this role, more than I could have imagined." Her praise was intoxicating, but it also added pressure. I realized that this experience wasn't just about fun or curiosity anymore. It was about managing a secret, performing under scrutiny, and navigating a new aspect of my identity. Over the following week, the pattern continued. Each rehearsal deepened the emotional complexity, excitement, anxiety, pride, fear. I became more skilled at managing the physical transformation, the wig, the makeup, the dress, but the internal tension only grew. The more I embodied the character, the more I felt that part of myself slipping into this persona outside the stage. Emma noticed changes in me. One evening, she grinned mischievously. "You're glowing lately, something on your mind?" Her eyes twinkled, and I felt both comforted and exposed. Could I tell her about the rehearsals? Could I explain the exhilaration, the thrill, the identity shift? Part of me wanted to, but another part feared judgment or misunderstanding. As the final dress rehearsal approached, the stakes reached their peak. The entire school would be watching, and every nuance of my performance mattered. Backstage, I adjusted the wig nervously, the soft fabric of the dress against my skin reminding me of how different I felt. I touched the hem, smoothed a wrinkle, and inhaled deeply. The curtain rose, and I stepped into the light. Every line, every gesture, every expression was charged with emotion. The audience's gaze felt intense, personal. I moved with grace, spoke with confidence, and laughed with authenticity. The thrill of crossdressing, of inhabiting this role fully, surged through me. But then, through the crowd, I saw a shadow at the edge of my vision. Someone had entered the hallway outside the stage doors. My heart skipped. Could they see me? Was my secret about to be exposed? Every muscle tensed, every nerve on edge. The suspense became almost unbearable. Yet somehow, I managed to finish the scene, bowing deeply as applause erupted. The relief was immediate and intoxicating, but the underlying tension lingered. I knew that the journey wasn't over. Each performance would test me further, my secret, my identity, my courage. Every step forward carried the thrill of transformation and the ever-present danger of exposure. By the end of the week, I realized I had changed. This wasn't just a role, it was an exploration of who I could be, a dance between the familiar and the unknown. I had discovered a thrill, a vulnerability, and a confidence all at once. And I knew, deep down, that the real suspense, the emotional, heart-pounding kind, was only just beginning. The night of the final performance had arrived. Backstage, the air was thick with nerves and anticipation. Costumes rustled, whispers filled the room, and the scent of hairspray and makeup created a surreal atmosphere. I stood before the mirror, adjusting my wig one last time, smoothing the dress over my shoulders. My heart thumped violently, not just from excitement, but from the fear of being discovered. Emma's words echoed in my mind. "You're going to be amazing, I know it." Her encouragement helped, but I couldn't shake the anxiety. What if someone noticed something beyond the role I was playing? What if my carefully guarded secret unraveled in front of the entire school? The curtains opened. Lights flooded the stage, and the audience's murmurs swelled into eager anticipation. I stepped forward, feeling the familiar thrill of crossdressing combined with the pressure of performance. Every step in my heels amplified the tension, my body balancing delicately between grace and fear. Halfway through the first scene, disaster nearly struck. One of the stage props, a tall, precarious stack of boxes, wobbled dangerously as I passed. My foot caught on the hem of my dress. In a heartbeat, the box tilted toward the audience, and I lunged to steady it, my heart pounding like a drum. The audience gasped, but I managed to right the stack just in time. Relief was fleeting. I could feel my hands trembling slightly, my confidence shaken. But the thrill persisted. Every moment on stage heightened the duality of my existence, the exhilaration of transformation and the fear of exposure intertwined so tightly that I could barely tell them apart. Then, during the pivotal scene, I noticed someone in the wings, someone who wasn't supposed to be there. A shadow moved just beyond the stage lights. My stomach twisted. Could it be Emma? A teacher? A parent? Whoever it was, they were too close, and I felt my secret slipping through the cracks. I pressed forward with the performance, every gesture, every line executed with deliberate precision. But internally, I was a storm of panic and excitement. The wig itched on my scalp, the dress clung uncomfortably as I pivoted, and the heels threatened to betray me with every step. I could feel the audience's gaze, weighing, evaluating, unaware of the hidden truth beneath my carefully curated persona. The climax of the play demanded a moment of vulnerability. My character, delicate, poised, but emotionally raw, had to confess a secret on stage. As I delivered the lines, I could almost feel my own vulnerabilities bleeding through. The applause, the gasps, the emotional sway of the audience, it all became a mirror reflecting my internal transformation. For a fleeting moment, I wasn't Luke. I wasn't a boy pretending. I was fully immersed in this other identity, raw and exposed. Suddenly, a hand touched my shoulder. I froze, heart leaping. Turning slightly, I glimpsed Miss Carmichael's calm, reassuring smile. "You've got this. Keep going." That small gesture grounded me, reminding me that the thrill and the danger were part of the performance, part of the experience I had chosen. But just as I felt a surge of confidence, the unthinkable happened. A classmate, supposed to be backstage, accidentally peeked from behind the curtains and froze in recognition. My heart slammed against my ribs. Time slowed. The gasp that escaped their lips threatened to unravel everything. I forced myself to stay in character. A deep breath. The lines flowed from my mouth, each word a lifeline. My legs trembled in my heels, the dress tightening with every pivot, but I pressed on. The audience remained oblivious, swept up in the story, unaware of the near catastrophe unfolding behind the scenes. Then came the final scene. My character had to descend a staircase in full view of the audience. Each step in my heels echoed loudly. The hem of the dress snagged slightly on the final step. My foot faltered. For a terrifying moment, it seemed I would tumble, exposing not just the performance but the persona I had been hiding. Instinct and adrenaline took over. I steadied myself, a flicker of triumph washing over me. The applause erupted as I reached the bottom, flawless, or at least appearing so. Relief mixed with exhilaration in a heady rush, my secret momentarily intact. After the curtain call, backstage was chaos. Cast and crew congratulated each other, the adrenaline still surging. Emma ran up, her eyes sparkling. "You were incredible. Everyone loved you." I wanted to laugh, cry, and confess all at once, but the reality was that my secret identity was still mine to protect. As the theater emptied, I retreated to the costume room, collapsing into a chair. The wig itched uncomfortably now, the dress clung damply from sweat, and my heels ached. But the memory of stepping into that spotlight, feeling alive in a way I hadn't before, lingered like an intoxicating perfume. It was then that I realized the stakes had grown beyond mere performance. This wasn't just a school play or a role anymore. It was an exploration of identity, of desire, of fear and thrill intertwined. The experience had changed me, revealing parts of myself I had only glimpsed in secret. But the danger hadn't disappeared. The classmates' shocked expression, the near misses, the constant threat of discovery, they all reminded me that the line between my two selves remained razor-thin. Each performance, each transformation, carried not only the thrill of self-expression but also the looming suspense of exposure. I slipped off the heels, removed the wig, and folded the costume carefully. My reflection in the mirror returned to Luke, but the faint smile on my lips betrayed the lingering presence of my other self, the girl who had conquered the stage, even if only temporarily. And yet, a shadow lingered behind the mirror's reflection. Someone had been watching, even when I thought I was alone. The suspense wasn't over. Whoever it was, they knew something. And I knew that the next time, I might not be so lucky. Back in the empty theater, I sat alone on the edge of the stage, the echoes of applause still ringing faintly in my ears. My heart hadn't yet slowed, still pounding from the adrenaline of the performance. The wig lay beside me, the dress draped neatly over a chair, but the exhilaration lingered like a spark ready to ignite again. Emma's words replayed in my mind. "You were amazing. I'm proud of you." Her praise warmed me, but underneath it, a knot of fear twisted. One fleeting glance from the classmate backstage had been enough to remind me that my secret wasn't entirely safe. How much had they seen? Did they suspect anything beyond the role? I reached for my reflection in the mirror, brushing the wig gently across my hand, as if testing the sensation I had just abandoned. The image staring back at me wasn't fully Luke, and yet it wasn't entirely the girl I had become on stage. There was a thin line between the two, and tonight, I had walked it in full view of an audience, exhilaration and dread intertwined. A sudden sound made me jump, a faint scuff of footsteps. I froze, my ears straining in the quiet theater. Could it be Emma returning to check on me? Or someone else, drawn by the remnants of the performance? The thought of being caught unprepared sent shivers down my spine. From the shadows of the backstage entrance, a figure emerged. I couldn't immediately make out who it was, only that their presence was deliberate, and their eyes seemed to hold a knowing gleam. My stomach dropped. The costume room felt suddenly smaller, the walls closing in with the weight of suspense. "You were incredible tonight," the voice said softly. My relief surged momentarily, until I recognized it wasn't Emma. It was the classmate who had glimpsed me earlier. They stepped closer, and my breath caught. There was a teasing smile on their face, but it carried an edge I couldn't decipher. Did they fully understand? Or were they just playing a game, testing me? "I didn't expect that," they continued, glancing at the wig and costume. "You really looked the part." Their eyes flicked toward me with a curiosity that bordered on something deeper. My mind raced, scrambling for a response that could keep my secret intact. Thanks," I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. The familiar thrill of crossdressing, the danger, the allure, clashed with my fear of exposure. Each heartbeat seemed to echo louder, a reminder of how close I had come to being discovered. The classmate tilted their head, studying me as if weighing their next move. "It's impressive," they said finally. "I wonder what would happen if someone else found out." My chest tightened. The implication hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. For a moment, I imagined my carefully guarded world shattering, everyone discovering the dual life I had been protecting. But alongside the fear was a pulse of excitement, the forbidden thrill of being seen, of having my other self acknowledged, even if only slightly. I took a tentative step back, but the classmate didn't move. Instead, they leaned closer, whispering with a mischievous undertone. "Don't worry, your secret's safe for now. But I'll be watching." A cold shiver ran down my spine, yet my lips curved into a hesitant smile. The tension, the fear, the exhilaration, it was addictive. My heart still raced, the thrill of the unknown coursing through me. I realized that this wasn't just about a school play anymore. My life, my identity, and my secret were now entangled in a suspenseful dance with someone who could see through the mask. They turned and disappeared into the shadows as quietly as they had arrived, leaving me trembling, half from fear and half from the lingering rush of excitement. I sank to the floor, clutching the edge of the stage, my mind spinning with what had just happened. What did they know? Would they reveal it? Or would they simply enjoy the suspense as much as I did? The empty theater suddenly felt like a cage. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow cast by the dim lighting seemed magnified. I glanced at the costume, the wig, the heels, symbols of my other self, and knew that this moment was only the beginning. As I rose and gathered my things, my reflection caught my eye. For a brief moment, I imagined the girl I had become on stage smiling back at me, daring me to continue this hidden life, this exhilarating, terrifying journey of duality. And I knew, deep down, that the next challenge would test me even further. The suspense was unresolved. The secret had survived the night, but only barely. Someone had noticed, someone had been watching, and the tension between fear and thrill was now an inescapable part of my life. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but the echo of their words lingered. I'll be watching. Outside, the night was silent, but inside, a storm of anticipation and dread swirled. The next time, I might not be so lucky. The next step could unravel everything. And yet, I couldn't deny the thrill that pulsed through me, the intoxicating mix of fear, excitement, and forbidden curiosity. The story ended there, but the suspense remained, hanging in the air like a delicate thread, waiting to snap at any moment. And as the theater emptied, I realized that my secret life had only just begun.